The stranger in the rain came down hard that evening, not like a gentle drizzle, but like the sky had been waiting all day to break. The streets of Mumbai glistened with puddles that mirrored blurred neon signs and speeding rickshaws. People rushed with plastic bags over their heads, umbrellas flipping inside out in the sudden gusts. It was a city used to chaos, but even this felt heavier than usual. Rahul was late. Again, he ran with a small backpack clinging to his shoulder, his thin sneakers squelching with every step. He worked as a security assistant at a big office complex in Bandra, a job that barely paid enough to cover his mother's medicines and his younger brother's school fees. But it was a job, and in a city like this, that was saying something. He couldn't afford to lose it. Not after everything they had lost already. He reached the tall glass building with its over-polished floors and cold marble walls, dripping wet and panting. The lobby was already quieting down for the evening shift. The receptionist gave him a look, half pity, half annoyance. "Boss came by an hour ago," she said without lifting her eyes. "Asked why you weren't at the desk." Rahul sighed and nodded, muttering a sorry before heading toward the side exit where he usually watched. The entrance after hours. What he didn't know was that the most important moment of his life was waiting just outside that door. He saw the man standing in the rain, alone. No umbrella, no jacket. His shirt was sticking to his body and his face was hidden behind a soaked medical mask and thick glasses. There was something strange about how he stood, not like someone caught in the rain, but like someone who had been in it for a long time and didn't seem to mind. Rahul stepped forward, unsure whether to say something. "Sir, are you ... okay?" he asked hesitantly. The man turned slightly. His voice was soft but clear. "I'm trying to get inside. The front desk told me to wait here." But no one came. Rahul frowned. No one told him anything. But he could see the man was shivering now. He glanced back at the empty hallway. The rules were strict. No unauthorized entry. No exceptions, especially after what happened last month. But rules didn't stop people from catching colds or collapsing from exhaustion. "Sir, you'll catch a fever standing like this," Rahul said. "Please come in. Just stay near the heaters. I'll explain it to my manager." The man gave him a curious look, like he hadn't expected that. Then he smiled faintly and followed him inside. They sat in silence for a while near the heater, the man drying his glasses and staring out the window like he was watching a memory. Rahul offered him a bottle of water. The man took it and nodded. "What's your name?" the man asked, after a long pause. "Rahul," he replied. "Security assistant. 3rd floor. Most of the time." The man nodded again. "Rahul, you broke a rule just now? And I want you to know something. Kindness like that? It changes things." Rahul didn't understand. He just shrugged and said it was raining. "I don't think rules should matter. More than people." They both smiled at that. But Rahul noticed something odd. The man wasn't just anybody. He had that air of someone used to big rooms and important decisions. His shoes were plain, but polished like he didn't walk much. When he checked his phone, the screen showed a Google login screen in a way Rahul had only ever seen in training. Videos before he could ask. A voice echoed across the hallway. "You let someone in through the side entrance?" It was Mr. Deshmak, head of security, short, round, and angry. "Boss." "Always angry, sir." He was standing in the rain. Rahul began. But the older man didn't let him finish. "You know the policy? Unauthorized access is a breach. You're done, Rahul. Hand in your badge, sir. Please, no excuses. I want your report by tomorrow. Go home." Rahul stood frozen. The man next to him stood too, as if about to intervene, but Rahul gently raised his hand. He didn't want to make things worse. He just looked at the stranger and said, "I'm sorry for the trouble. Take care." And then he walked out into the rain again, jobless, soaked, and unsure how he was going to explain this to his mother. He didn't cry until he reached the alley behind his building. And even then, it wasn't because he had been fired. It was because he had done the right thing and still lost. He sat on the old wooden bench in their tiny flat that night. his brother quietly doing homework in the corner, and told his mother everything. She didn't say much, just held his hand and said, "Sometimes when you lose something good, it's because something better is on the way." He smiled weakly. Nice words. But they wouldn't pay rent. The next morning he woke up to a phone call. The number was unknown, but professional sounding. "Is this Rahul Kumar?" "Yes. ... Please hold. Someone wishes to speak with you." There was a pause, then a familiar voice. "Rahul, it's me, the man from yesterday. My name is Sundar. Sundar Pichai." Rahul blinked. He thought maybe he was still dreaming. Double quote, "Sir." "Sundar Pichai?" "Yes, I have something to tell you. I need you to listen very carefully." And just like that, his life changed again. The call that broke the silence for a few seconds after hearing his name, Rahul didn't speak. He just stared at the crack on the wall in front of him, his breath caught halfway between disbelief and fear. Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google. Man whose speeches he'd watched late at night when he couldn't sleep. The same man he had led through the side door like a lost visitor. The voice on the other end of the line repeated gently, "Rahul, are you there?" "Yes, sir," Rahul stammered. I just... ... I didn't know. I didn't recognize you yesterday." "I'm sorry." If Sundar laughed softly, a calm, measured sound that somehow made the world feel a little less heavy. "Don't be sorry. I didn't want to be recognized. I was visiting in a personal capacity. No entourage, no noise. I came to see how things really are, how people behave when no one is watching." Rahul leaned forward on the edge of the bed, eyes wide. His brother peeked over from the corner, sensing something unusual. Rahul gave him a look that said, "Later." He focused back on the phone. "Yesterday," Sundar continued, "you didn't know who I was. You had every reason to turn me away. But you didn't. You helped me. Not because of who I am, but because of who you are. And that's rare. Most people follow rules because they're afraid of punishment. But you followed something else, something better." Rahul swallowed hard, unsure what to say. No one had ever described him like that before. At best, he was invisible. At worst, a nuisance. Yet here was one of the most powerful people in the world, calling him rare. "Sir, I lost my job because of it." There was a pause on the line, and Sundar said, "I know. That's why I'm calling." Rahul didn't even notice his mother had entered the room, her hand on her lower back, watching him with a confused expression. He covered the phone and whispered, "Ma, he says he's Sundar Pichai." Her eyes went wide. She sat down beside him, hands folded, like she was sitting in front of a temple idol. "I want to offer you something," Sundar said, bringing Rahul back to the moment. "I'm flying back to California tonight, but before I go, I want to meet you. Not in an office, not in a boardroom. At a small tea shop near Andheri Station, just the two of us. Come if you want. If not, no pressure." Rahul blinked. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be real. "Double quotes, sir. I'll come," he said quickly. "Afraid the offer might vanish like a dream." "Good," Sundar replied. "And Rahul, ... wear whatever you like. We're just two people having chai." The call ended with a click. That echoed longer than expected. Rahul sat frozen for a full minute, then jumped to his feet. "Ma, I have to go." "And Hiri?" His mother looked concerned. "But what if it's a mistake? What if someone's playing a joke?" Rahul shook his head. "If it's real, it could change everything. And if it's not, then I'll still have had a cup of tea with a good story to tell." He borrowed his cousin's cleanest shirt and used the last of their savings to take a rickshaw across town. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still gray, like it hadn't decided if it was finished crying. Every turn the rickshaw took, every honk, every stoplight, Rahul kept imagining different versions of the meeting. Maybe Sundar would offer him a new job. Maybe he just wanted to say thanks. Maybe it was a mistake and someone else entirely would be there, some stranger with bad intentions. When he reached the tea shop, he was 10 minutes early. It was small and tucked behind a row of hardware stores, with faded plastic chairs and a handwritten menu taped to the wall. It smelled of masala and old newspapers. He looked around nervously, trying not to draw attention. 5 minutes passed, Then, suddenly, Sundar walked in. He wasn't surrounded by guards or assistants. He wasn't wearing a suit. It's just a plain shirt, jeans, and the same quiet smile from the night before. The tea vendor looked up in mild surprise, but said nothing. Sundar walked straight to Rahul's table, pulled out a chair and sat down. "Thank you for coming," he said. Rahul nodded, still too stunned to speak. They ordered tea, and the glasses came, steaming and sweet. Sundar held his in both hands, like it was something sacred. "Rahul," he began, "I grew up in a modest home in Chennai. We didn't have much, but we had values. I was lucky to go to good schools, and even luckier to have people who believed in me. That's why I've never forgotten where I came from." He looked around the small tea shop, then back at Rahul. "You reminded me of something important. The world doesn't change because of big speeches or flashy apps. It changes when someone like you chooses kindness over comfort. That's the future I want to build." Rahul finally found his voice. "Sir, ... I don't know what to say." "Then just listen," Sundar said. "I've already spoken to your previous employer. You won't be going back there." Rahul's heart sank. He felt it like a punch to the gut. But Sundar wasn't finished. "Instead, I want you to come to Bangalore next week. I've arranged a 6-month paid internship at our development center. Full training, mentorship, housing support, everything. If you do well, you'll have a place with us permanently." Rahul stared at him, mouth slightly open. "Me? Work at Google? You help someone in the rain?" Sundar said. "Now let's see what happens when you help yourself." The tea between them had gone cold, but Rahul didn't care. He could barely hear the sounds of the shop anymore, the honking cars, the clatter of cups, the shouting vendors outside. All he could hear was his heartbeat, pounding with something new, something wild and terrifying and beautiful. Hope they sat there a while longer, talking about life, ambition, and what it means to rise without forgetting where you began. Sundar gave him a small notebook before leaving, with the words handwritten inside, "Never forget the power of small choices." As Sundar stood to leave, a black car pulled up quietly across the street. No attention, no cameras, just efficiency. In silence, he turned to Rahul one last time and said, "Your real journey starts now." Rahul watched him go, his tea untouched, his hands shaking. But as he stepped out into the now silent evening, something in him felt louder than ever. And then, as he turned the corner to head home, his phone buzzed again. A new message. "We have a problem. Don't go to Bangalore yet. Someone's trying to stop you." Shadows in the inbox hole stared at his phone, blinking hard like the message might disappear if he squinted long enough. The words glowed on the screen, sharp and out of place, like a stranger whispering in a quiet room. "We have a problem. Don't go to Bangalore yet. Someone's trying to stop you." His fingers trembled as he read it again. He looked around, suddenly hyper-aware of the people walking past, the fruit vendor shouting discounts, the man sleeping under the shutter of a closed shop, the schoolboy dragging a broken tiffin box behind him. Everything looked normal, ordinary, but the message felt anything but. He tapped the screen, trying to see the sender, but it was from an unknown number. No name, no details, no clue. His heart raced with the kind of fear that doesn't shout, it just hums low, like a warning beneath your skin. He thought of his mother, of his brother, doing homework by candlelight, of Sundar's face across the tea shop table. This wasn't just a new job anymore. This was something bigger. Suddenly, someone didn't want him to have it. He walked. Faster. Not quite running, but fast enough to make people turn their heads. The streets blurred around him. He wasn't just scared now, he was angry. Angry that after everything, someone still wanted to pull him down. He didn't know who. He didn't know why, but he could feel it. Like a shadow, just out of sight. By the time he reached home, he was breathless. His mother looked up from folding laundry, concern immediately taking over her face. "Rahul, what happened?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he sat down, phone still clutched tightly in his hand, and showed her the message. She read it slowly. then looked at him the way only mothers can't, like she was trying to protect him just by looking harder. Could be someone jealous, she said. Or someone who lost power when you got yours? Rahul thought about it. The only people who might know about the internship were Sundar, the office where he used to work, and maybe a few folks from HR who handled security clearance. But none of them had reason to sabotage him, did they? He stood up quickly, his mind pulling pieces together like a puzzle that had been scattered for years. Deshmukh, he whispered. The name tasted bitter in his mouth. Mr. Deshmukh, the head of security at his old workplace, was more than just strict, he was territorial. He'd once shouted at a senior manager for using a coffee mug from the wrong floor. The man didn't like being questioned, didn't like when the spotlight moved off him, definitely didn't like when someone like Rahul broke a rule and somehow came out as the hero. You think he's behind it? His mother asked. I don't know, Rahul said, grabbing his charger and plugging in his dying phone. But if he is, then this isn't just about me losing a job. It's about him making sure I never rise again. He didn't sleep that night. The glow of the screen kept him company as he dug through old emails, past contacts, anything that could link back to the message. Around 3 a.m., another text came in. They're digging into your past. Anything they can use. Don't trust anyone from the old office, not even the nice ones. His throat went dry. He remembered the minor incident from last year when he accidentally entered the finance wing without a visitor badge. It had been nothing, just a misstep, quickly resolved. But in the wrong hands, even small mistakes become weapons. He typed, Quickly, who are you? Why are you helping me? The reply came almost instantly. You helped the right person.
All the wrong ones
are angry. Just hold on. More is coming. Rahul felt like a fly trapped in a spider's web. Someone, somewhere, was pulling strings, and the worst part? He still didn't know the game. The next morning, a man in a formal shirt knocked on their door. Rahul Kumar, he asked, holding a manila envelope with no sender. His voice was polite. Too polite. Rahul nodded slowly. You've been summoned to the regional employment office, the man said. It's a concern about your background. Verification. We suggest you come in for questioning. His mother stepped forward. Background. He's done nothing wrong. But the man was already turning away. Rahul opened the envelope. Inside were 2 pages printed in sharp ink. One was a notice of suspension from public employment consideration. The other was a request for immediate presence for clarification. Of discrepancies, it felt like the floor had dropped under him. Later that day, while standing in line at the office filled with flickering tube lights and impatient clerks, he received another message. This is their first move. Don't panic. Play it smart. There's someone on the inside who's watching you. Trust no one except the man in the blue tie. He's on your side. Rahul looked up from the screen and scanned the room. Most people looked bored or tired or both. Then, across the hall, a man with a worn briefcase and a sky-blue tie looked up and locked eyes with him. Just for a second. Then he turned away like nothing had happened. And yet, that 1 second said everything Rahul needed to know. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. The man with the blue-tied room was thick with the smell of government ink and stale sweat. Like 1,000 stories had died here and no one had bothered to open a window. Rahul sat on a plastic chair with uneven legs, surrounded by people, waiting to prove they existed, to defend jobs they barely held, to correct mistakes they hadn't made. But Rahul's case was different. This wasn't a missing document or a wrong date of birth. This was a message wrapped in paperwork, a warning delivered by bureaucracy. He looked around, trying not to stare. Then his eyes landed again on the man with the blue tie. The man was older, maybe in his late 40s, with a quiet face and tired eyes. He was flipping through a thin file, but his fingers moved like he was only pretending to read. He glanced at Rahul once more, barely a flick of the eyes, then returned to his file. It's nothing obvious, nothing reckless. But enough to confirm what? The message had said, "Trust the man in the blue tie." Rahul was still wondering what that meant when a voice barked his name from behind a frosted glass door. Rahul Kumar. Cubicle 12. He stood, legs stiff, throat dry. Every eye in the room turned to him, some curious, some bored. A few secretly grateful that it wasn't them. The hallway to Cubicle 12 was narrow. The walls covered in faded posters about digital security and workplace ethics. Oh, the door to the cubicle was open, revealing a woman with a frown that looked like it had moved in years ago and never left. She motioned him to sit without a word. "There are inconsistencies," she said, without looking up. "Small ones. Your attendance records, your ID scans. Even your reference number from your last employer seems ... unusual." Rahul opened his mouth, but she raised a finger. "We're not accusing you of anything yet, but your file has been flagged. And the timing of your supposed internship opportunity has raised some questions." He frowned. "What kind of questions?" She finally looked up, her eyes sharp behind thick lenses. "Like why a multinational company would offer a paid internship to someone with a security violation on their record?" Rahul felt something inside him sink. This wasn't an investigation, it was a setup. Someone had carefully chosen the tools, misfiled documents, half-truths, and doubt. "I was fired for helping a stranger during a storm," he said. "That stranger turned out to be Sundar Pichai. He offered me the internship." She gave him a long, flat look, then scribbled something into her file. "Sure he did." The interview lasted 20 more minutes, but Rahul stopped hearing most of it. It was all the same tone, same weight, like being wrapped in a wet blanket and told to breathe through it. When he stepped out, the hallway felt colder. But the man with the blue tie was gone, until, just as Rahul passed the stairwell, a voice behind him said, "Don't look back, just follow." Rahul froze. The voice was calm, low, careful. He walked forward, not turning around, as instructed. The man joined him at his side after a moment, the blue tie now half tucked into his shirt like he didn't want it seen. "They're trying to discredit you," he said without greeting. "They're not questioning your past, they're rewriting." Rahul's voice was a whisper. "Who's they?" "Someone with a grudge. Someone with access. Your file was cleaned 2 days ago. It has 3 contradictions, 2 flagged items, and a missing form that didn't exist until yesterday." "Deshmukh." The man didn't answer, which in itself was the answer. They stepped out into the sun. The light hurt Rahul's eyes more than it should have. The world outside was still moving like nothing was wrong. Cars honking, pigeons arguing on electric wires, vendors shouting about bananas. But to Rahul, it felt like standing on a stage in the middle of a collapsing play. The man handed him a card, just a plain card. White, 1 line of text, "Show this at Gate 3, Bangalore. Office. Ask for Shiv, nothing more." Rahul looked at him. "Why are you helping me?" The man looked at the sky as if the answer might be hiding there. "Because I've seen this before. Good people crushed because someone powerful was embarrassed. I once believed the system worked. Now I believe in people like you." Before Rahul could say another word, the man turned and melted back into the crowd, not running, not hiding, just disappearing the way people in stories always seem to do. When their part is done, that night Rahul packed a small bag. He didn't tell his mother the full truth, just that he had to leave a day earlier, that there was something urgent in Bangalore. She hugged him longer than usual. "Promise me one thing," she said. "Anything, no matter how big your world gets. Don't forget the streets you walked." To get there, he nodded. And for once, he didn't try to be brave. He just let the fear and hope mix inside him like 2 sides of a coin he couldn't control. At dawn, he boarded the train, the city rolled away behind him, and ahead, somewhere beyond the tracks and clouds and carefully placed enemies, something waited. Maybe it was his future. Maybe it was another trap. Either way, there was no going back. But just as he settled into his seat, his phone buzzed again. "You have 48 hours before they bury your story. And you're not the only one there." After. The silent Kurridorthi train rolled into Bangalore as the morning sun bled gold across the sky, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch from the past itself. Rahul stepped off the platform carrying nothing but a small bag, the white card, with the name Shiv tucked carefully in his shirt pocket, close to his heart. He didn't know what he was walking into. He only knew it wasn't going to be a normal internship. And nothing about this was going to be easy. The station buzzed with the usual noise announcements echoing through steel beams. Hawkers balancing trays of samosas and chai, travelers dragging themselves half asleep into the chaos of the day. But for Rahul, everything felt muffled. He wasn't a passenger anymore. He was a piece on a board someone else had already started. Playing on, he took a cab straight to the Google campus, following the directions printed on the back of the card. When they reached the gates, he asked the driver to wait just in case he needed to turn around fast. Bangalore's air was cooler than Mumbai's, more polite, but it carried the same undercurrent of speed and ambition. The kind of air that didn't stop for people like him. He approached Gate 3, not the main entrance. It's not the one with the glass dome and smiling receptionists. This one was smaller, less polished, tucked between a concrete wall and a delivery entrance. 2 security guards stood on either side, looking bored. Rahul showed the card. The guard on the left blinked, then straightened his back and made a quick call. A few seconds later, the gate opened without a word, as if pulled by invisible strings. Rahul stepped through. The silence inside was immediate. No sounds of typing, no echo of footsteps. Just the soft hum of fluorescent lights and the distant tap of water dripping somewhere out of view. A woman in a gray blazer appeared suddenly, walking briskly down the corridor toward him. Rahul Kumar. Yes, follow me. Quickly, no questions yet. Her voice wasn't cold, but it wasn't warm either. It was the voice of someone who had already spent a lifetime in meetings where everything was a code. She led him through a maze of white halls and glass doors until they reached a plain room. No windows, 1 table, 2 chairs. A man stood inside, waiting Shiv. He didn't look like an engineer. He looked like someone who could disappear in a crowd, and had probably done so many times. Average height, plain shirt, but his eyes were too sharp, like they'd been trained to spot lies before they were even spoken. Sit, Shvez, said Rahul. Sat. Javsavi didn't open a laptop. Didn't look at notes. He just leaned forward. You've been targeted, he said flatly. Your file's been flagged in 3 databases. Not just for security violations. Now it says you're under internal review for false claims. Unauthorized contact with an executive and potential misuse of privileged access. Rahul's jaw tightened. That's all fake. Of course it is, Shiv said. But fake doesn't matter if enough people believe it. He opened a folder and slid a paper toward Rahul. It was a printout of a conversation, one that never happened. This was sent to our HR division yesterday. It looks like a chat log between you and someone pretending to be Sundar. In it, he promises you a job in exchange for confidential building access. Rahul felt the blood drain from his face. I never wrote that. I never had anything like that conversation. We know. But whoever made it has access to your profile, your writing patterns, even your usage timings. It's scarily close to... Real Shiv tapped the table. And that's just the beginning. They're not trying to stop your internship. They're trying to erase your credibility entirely. Rahul sat back in his chair, eyes wide. Why? Why go this far over a simple mistake? Shiv smiled, but not kindly. Because you embarrassed a man who spent his whole career making others feel small. Sundar gave you a chance that hundreds of others would have killed for. And now those people, especially the ones who were supposed to keep people like you out, they want to remind the world that the system still works their way. Rahul felt something deep inside him snapped like breaking, but like a lock finally giving way. What do I do? He asked. Shiv stood up and walked to the wall. Screen came alive, showing a series of names and documents, some familiar. Most not, you tell your story, completely. Not in secret, not in shame. We're going to give you a protected platform, a timed public release, a full statement direct from you. Before they finish rewriting your past, we publish your present. Bury it, Rahul said. They'll say I made it up. Chode shows. Turned. That's why you're not going to do it alone. Just then, the door opened again, and there stood Som, R-P-I-C-H-A. I know security detail. No team, just him. He looked at Rahul, smiled gently, and said, I told you your journey had just begun. But why are you here? Because you're not the only one being targeted, Sundar said. They've been doing this to others. Quiet voices. Unnoticed kindness. People who don't look the part, but act with heart. It's time to end that. And we're starting with your story. Rahul stared at him, then at Shiv, then at the screen full of documents. He nodded slowly. Okay, let's do it. As he said it, a red light blinked on the wall. Emergency alert. Someone had breached the internal servers. Someone was trying to wipe the original tea shop footage, the proof that Rahul and Sundar had met. SHIV's single quotes, his voice cut through the silence. Like glass, they're trying to erase the truth in real time. Rahul stood. Then we have to move faster. The truth they couldn't dilate a hallway outside the control room had gone eerily quiet. The soft hum of servers now pulsed louder than it should have, and somewhere in the distance, a siren began to wail. Not loud, but steady, like a pulse. Rahul stood in the middle of it all, the glow of the emergency alert washing his face in red. Shiv was already typing commands into the console, fingers moving like he wasn't just coding, he was fighting. Sundar stood beside him, arms crossed, eyes focused, silent but sharp. They've triggered a remote wipe, Shiv said through gritted teeth. The tea shop footage, access logs, GPS pings. They're scrubbing everything that proves you ever met him. Rahul leaned over the screen. The folder labeled Evidence Video Backup was blinking, one file at a time turning gray. Can you stop it? Not alone, Shiv said. I need you to authorize the original source. If you took any photo, voice memo, something personal, it has to match the metadata, or we lose it all. Rahul's mind spun. Nothing came to him. No photos. No recordings. They'd just shared chai. It was human, real, unrecorded. Then he remembered something. Wait, he gave me a notebook. Shiv glanced at him. Notebook, yes. He wrote something in it. A hand. Rahul tore open his bag and pulled it out. The front was slightly damp from the trip, edges curled. He opened it to the first page. Never forget the power of small choices. Sundar Shiv scanned it with his phone. The handwriting was verified in seconds. Metadata matched the ink. System stopped the wipe just before the last file went gray. SHIV exhaled hard. We're safe. For now. Rahul looked at Sundar. What do we do with it? Sundar didn't hesitate. We tell the world. An hour later, they uploaded everything. Not 2 news sites. Not 2 social media. They built a new page under the official company blog. The headline was simple. A cup of tea, a storm, and the choice that revealed everything. It told the whole story. How a security assistant followed his heart instead of his rulebook. That moment set off a chain reaction. How an old guard, angry at being made invisible, tried to erase a boy for showing what real leadership looked like. But it didn't stop there. The blog post linked to other stories, others who had been silenced. A young woman in Hyderabad, Hood, been demoted for standing up to a corrupt vendor. Tech assistant in Delhi who discovered a security flaw and was fired before he could explain. Dozens of stories, buried until now. Within 24 hours, the post had been read by over 3 million people. Within 72 hours, the board at Rahul's former company announced an internal investigation. Within a week, Mr. Deshmukh resigned. No statements. No farewell. But that wasn't the victory. The victory came quietly in the form of emails from strangers who said they'd felt invisible too, but not anymore. In the way the internship program shifted, opening its doors wider to people from places where resumes came handwritten. In the way people in the office surreal, people started asking, not just what's your role, but what's your story? And for Rahul, the real victory came one evening, weeks later. When he was walking down the corridor of the Bangalore office, not as a visitor or intern but as an employee, he passed a glass wall where a group of new recruits were gathered. One of them stood up, recognizing him. "You're the guy from the story," the recruit said, half in awe. Rahul smiled. "I'm just a guy who opened a door." The group chuckled, but not mockingly. It was the kind of laughter that said, "We see you now." Later that night, he sat on a rooftop with his mother and brother. The stars were faint, drowned by the city lights, but they were there. "I kept thinking it was a mistake," he said softly. "That everything good was an accident." His mother handed him a cup of tea. "No, Beta," she said. "Hey was a choice, and you made the right one." He looked down at the cup, steam curling upward into the air. It had started with a storm, a stranger, and a door, and now the door was wide open for many more an end.